This is Andi Purewal for ID Boxing. I'm joined by promoter Eddie Hearn out here in Abu Dhabi. Eddie, interesting night.
You didn't say how are you? Oh, no. I'm good. What was the question?
Interesting night for you, obviously flying over to Dubai. Just wanted to kind of get an understanding as to what you was up to over there.
I was doing a personal appearance for one of the sponsors of the show on Saturday night. So we left the workout, we flew to Dubai, we did that. Then I did a podcast with AB Talks, which is a huge podcast in the Middle East. And then came back, got back at about 2 in the morning, had a Caesar salad and an asparagus soup. Went to bed about 3:30. I don't know how you're finding the jet lag, but I fly all over the world. It's murdering me this way. So yeah, great press conference. Tickets are flying. Got a really big night on Saturday night. Amongst, some kind of like negativity about fights getting made. We've got a really good fight to celebrate on Saturday night. I think it's gonna be a great card.
Right in what you said, I think everybody's been struggling with the jet lag this way for some reason, but we move on and we just have a press conference here. A very intense face-off between Bivol-Ramirez and Cameron McCaskill as well, where Chantel kind of turned away from Jessica's offering of a handshake. But what did you make of the main event one first?
I just think it's a great fight, and I thought Oscar spoke really well. I think fighters want to be involved in great fights, but they've got to believe they can win, and so have the teams. And you've got two fighters and two teams that genuinely believe they're going to win this fight. And that's when you get a great fight. Serrano-Ramirez is 44-0, he's a former world champion. Bivol's 20-0, he's coming off a Canelo-Alvarez victory. It's just a really good high-end elite matchup, and looking forward to it. And you could see the intensity in their eyes a couple of days away now.
Dimitri said to me yesterday that if he's successful, he'd rather chase Artur Beterbiev for an undisputed bout instead of a Canelo rematch. I was wondering to get your understanding, where do things stand in terms of that rematch clause? Would that be possible at all?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. We've still got to negotiate Dimitri Bivol's package in that fight, and Canelo Alvarez has got to be ready for that fight. Obviously, he's coming off the back of surgery. I think Canelo Alvarez definitely wants to avenge that defeat. And Dimitri Bivol, of course, would take that fight, but he is also about legacy and belts as well, and he does want to become undisputed himself. Never know, he might drop down to 168 and maybe fight Canelo for undisputed. But I think the focus is on this weekend. But if Dimitri Bivol is successful, I do think there's a good chance you'll see the Canelo Alvarez fight in May.
Ahead of a potential Beterbiev?
Yeah, because also Beterbiev is going to fight, I believe, end of February or something like that. So if that happens, I know he's coming off injury himself, but I feel like Bivol's the best 175-pounder in the world, but Beterbiev's a great fighter. I think that's a tremendous fight. I certainly wouldn't have any problems in making that fight or seeing it. Even if it meant Canelo Alvarez not getting an immediate rematch on his return, but we'll see.
I'm always interested to know with Canelo, outside of 175, who else is there, in your opinion, that he could realistically box? I know you might name a couple of fighters you have, but in terms of names that could sell well across the zone, what is out there for him at 168?
You got a fight. I quite like the fight with Jaime Munguia as well. If he moves up and starts fighting some serious opposition. Obviously, Dimitri Bivol at 175 or maybe 168. Chris Eubank Jr. I think could be a big fight if he puts a big win together. And then you've got the other guys on the other side of the street, if you like. The thing is with Canelo is, what I've found with him is, standard fights don't really appeal to him. Do you know what I mean? It has to be something that makes him go, oh yeah. And unfortunately, getting beat, that was moving up and fighting Dimitri Bivol. Everyone said that's a tough fight, and he was like, I like that fight. Obviously, the Triple G fight was the trilogy, and that makes sense. But I think when you get to that stage in your career, it's about legacy. It's about challenging yourself. But I think as well, I'd like to see him fight internationally. I'd love to see Canelo Alvarez box in London. I'd love to see him fight at the Azteca Stadium in Mexico. I'd love to see him fight in the Middle East. And these are kind of things that might appeal to him now in his career, but I just don't feel like, and that's why, when people say about Charlo and Benavidez and stuff like that, I think he would take those fights in an instant. But he's kind of like saying to those guys, make that fight, fight somebody, and then we'll do the fight. He has no problem fighting anyone. So it's just really particular fights that just flick the switch with him and go, yeah, I like that, because it's a challenge getting up for it when you've got what he's got, but he still loves the sport.
He was mentioned on stage that kind of as a struggle at the minute to get certain fights on, and we saw Terence Crawford really come out of all woodwork and discuss the fallout from the failed Spence fight. I just wanted to get your thoughts on everything Terence has had to say as to why that fight couldn't happen, and how he had managed to get an offer come to him and he presented it to Spence before Al Heyman kind of said, no, that isn't happening.
Where to start? look, that firstly, I got criticism recently for saying that fight's not as big as we think it is. Like, honestly, the problem is when you talk about business of boxing, I'm pretty well qualified to discuss it. Al Heyman knows the boxing business like the back of his hand, like me. The reality is, Al Heyman is not prepared to put a guarantee together for that fight because, in my opinion, he knows the reality of the size of that fight. Big fight, mega fight for boxing. But if the fight was as big as everyone thought it was, do you not think he would just put the money up and make the fight? I would. Like, when you've got a fight like Fury against AJ, there's no guarantees for those fights because no one's bothered. Everyone knows how big it is. You don't have to worry about it. You have to worry about Spence-Crawford. Because if I'm setting a line on a budget for a guarantee, I'm setting the line at 350 or 400,000 buys. Now, someone might say on Twitter, do 1 million buys that, will it really? Okay, so what, are you going to put the money up for that? On 1 million buys? No, because you're not confident of the size of that fight in terms of the pay-per-view buys. That's the reality. And the problem is as well, when you've got someone that's prepared to pay 10 million to come into the market and try and make a name for their platform, which look, we've done before with DAZN, and you have to do it. If you're getting 10 million to fight Avanesian in a fight, you could fight 1,000, and Avanesian's a good fighter, but you could fight that fight 1,000 times, you probably wouldn't lose once. So you're getting 10 million for that. What's the offer from the Spence fight? Oh, well, it's just open book and it's 50-50 or whatever the deal is. Oh, what's the guarantee? No guarantee. Oh, hang on, I'm getting 10 million here for an easy fight. So, I listened to what Terence said. I'm not saying I agree with it all, but at the same time, fighters have advisors for a reason. It's all very well saying, I'm my own boss, I'll make the decision. The reality is, how qualified are you to make that decision, right? Fighters are fighters, promoters are promoters. I'm not saying that fighters don't and shouldn't understand the business, but the reality is that when Terence goads Errol Spence about not being his own boss, maybe he trusts Al Heyman to make the right decisions for his career. And I've been in that situation. Like, AJ wouldn't do a deal on his own. He would want Matchroom, he would want 258 to be across it because that's his team. Tony Bellew would have never taken a fight without me being across it. Carl Froch, the same. All these fighters that have trust in us and have delivered for their career, they're not comfortable just sitting there, and sometimes they're not qualified to do so either. So I don't feel sorry for Al Heyman in this instance, but I understand his position, and that's it really. I don't know what else to say.
So who do you feel the blame lies with as to why that fight didn't get made then?
The blame lies with the size of that fight. The blame lies with the promoters that have promoted Errol Spence and Terence Crawford to a point where they are simply not big enough to deliver the numbers that they think they are. And Andy, like, someone could tell you could literally be in a gym and someone could say to a fighter, that fight does 1 million buys. I'm telling you, you should get 25 million for that fight, right? Do you not think that us as promoters, as stakeholders in shows, know the exact numbers of every single show that we do? And it's all very well someone on Twitter or someone in the gym saying, Dad, it's this big, it's this big. If it is, and you believe in that, then you can take the opportunity to own that revenue if you want. But sometimes you have to do that without a guarantee or with a smaller guarantee. You can't just say, put a guarantee up for that fight, give us both 25 million, when the show only produces 40 million of profit. Do you want to lose 15 million trying to put up a guarantee? That's not business. And on the flip side, people are prepared to pay and overpay for certain fights. Again, we've been guilty of it. Every promotional company has in the past. So who do we blame? Me. Blame me.
I can blame you, Eddie. Yeah, that's fine. But Eddie, just moving away from that, to get your thoughts on a few other topics. You mentioned kind of Eubank looking at a big fight next. Liam Smith fight's been proposed for December 17th. Your thoughts, and do you think that ends up on Sky pay-per-view?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I mean, that would be a Sky fight. They're talking about that fight at the moment. I think that's probably a front runner. Obviously, it's not my business. I don't represent Eubank. He wants the Conor Benn fight, but we have no clarity of where that could be possible. I believe you'll see that fight in 2023, but Eubank needs to fight. Liam Smith fight, it's a tough fight for him, but it's a good fight as well. I guess the issue is it's only, 5 weeks away, 6 weeks away, so it's pretty rushed. really. But yeah, over to those guys for that one.
Obviously, we've seen show clashes throughout the year already, and obviously we've got one coming up on November 26th. Will that one going ahead put hold to any plans you may have of a potential show in December?
That would be a pay-per-view fight. Our fight that we've got planned for the 17th isn't a pay-per-view, but it's a big fight. So we'll see. We're not guaranteed. Again, the issue is the time frame. You know, I think there's a good chance we do December 17, but we'll have to see.
Did see Adam Smith around last week as well. Were you surprised to see him around covering Katie Taylor's fight?
No, I think Katie Taylor's a personal friend of Adam Smith. He loves her. He's been a big part of her journey, and it was great to see Adam there as a fan. Really, he covered the fight on behalf of Sky. I don't think many people at Sky would have been very happy that he was covering the fight, but fair play to him for saying no. We should and we must, and we'd like to see more of it. But it was great to see Adam at the show.
We spoke about what next for Katie Taylor. The WBA have ordered the Erica Cruz and Amanda Serrano fight. Will that put pay to any chance of that?
I think that would be earlier in the year. I think that could be a fight that we look at. Obviously, we represent Erica Cruz. It's a 50-50 split, which is a massive opportunity for her. And I think that fight would take place in January or February, and then we'd look at April, May for Taylor Serrano. We can't do that fight till the beginning of the summer at least, because it's going to be chilly over at Croke Park. But I'm confident maybe even we can work towards a 2-fight deal with MVP and see if we can get that done.
Any further correspondence with Deontay Wilder's team?
No.
Fair enough. And final one, just AJ commenting on who he could face. He's saying he's all up for Otto Wallin, Dillian White, Filip Hrgovic.
Honestly, there is not a fight that I would put to Anthony Joshua that he would not accept. Not one fight. It's just a case of when and how you do them. Do you go White Wilder? Do you go Wallin White Wilder? Do you go But he doesn't want an easy fight. He's here tonight, I think, or tomorrow. We're going to sit down and we start making plans for the next fight.
I do appreciate your time. Thank you.
Cheers, mate.